My children refused to visit. Your garden looks too country for our taste. Until food prices skyrocketed. When my daughter Ashley rolled her eyes at my tomato plants and said, "Mom, this whole setup is just too country for our friends to see." I simply smiled, handed her a glass of sweet tea and started planning. By the time grocery prices hit $8 for a single head of lettuce, my family had discovered that their embarrassing country mom was sitting on a gold mine they desperately needed. They thought they were dealing with a simple farm woman who didn't understand their sophisticated city lifestyle. They were about to learn I was a retired agricultural extension agent who understood food systems better than their fancy grocery stores ever would. Justice must be restored and arrogance punished. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. My name is Carol, and for 30 years I poured my heart into raising 3 children on our small farm outside Millfield. After my husband passed 5 years ago, I kept our 2-acre homestead running exactly how he would have wanted. Every morning at sunrise, I'd walk through rows of vegetables, check on my chicken coop, and tend to the fruit trees we planted together when the kids were small. My children, Ashley, 35, a marketing executive, Kevin, 32, a software developer, and Bryce, 28, who works in finance, had all moved to the city years ago. They built impressive careers, bought expensive houses in gated communities, and married people who looked down on anything that wasn't perfectly manicured and modern. For years, I invited them for Sunday dinners. I'd spend all Saturday preparing their favorite meals using vegetables from my garden, eggs from my hens, and fruit from our orchard. The dining table would be set with my grandmother's china, mason jars full of fresh flowers, and enough food to feed an army. But the visits became shorter and less frequent. "Mom, the smell from your chicken coop carries all the way to the house," Ashley complained during her last visit 6 months ago. "And these mason jars, could you maybe get some normal glassware?" Kevin started making excuses too. "It's just hard for Melody and me to bring the kids out here. They're not used to all this outdoor stuff. And honestly, the gravel driveway is rough on our car." The final blow came from Bryce last month. His wife Charlotte had convinced him that my lifestyle was beneath their social circle. "Mom, when we have people over, we can't really invite them out here. Your garden setup looks like something from a history book. It's just too country for our taste." But what hurt most wasn't their embarrassment about my home. It was how they treated my knowledge like it was worthless. When I tried to share stories about sustainable farming, they checked their phones. When I offered to teach Ashley's twin daughters how to grow herbs, she laughed and said, "They'll learn useful skills in their coding classes instead." Even my professional background meant nothing to them. For 25 years before retirement, I'd worked as a county agricultural extension agent. I'd helped hundreds of families start gardens, taught sustainable farming methods, and consulted with local restaurants on seasonal produce. I'd published articles in farming journals and spoken at agricultural conferences across 3 states. But to my children, I was just country mom, with her dirty fingernails and unfashionable clothes. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago during what would be our last Sunday dinner together. Ashley brought her new boyfriend, a pretentious investment banker named Bradley, who spent the entire meal taking photos of my rustic kitchen decor for what he called his authentic American experience social media story. "Carol, this is absolutely charming," he said in that condescending tone people use when they think something is quaint but primitive. "It's like stepping back in time. Ashley told me you grow your own food? How resourceful." Kevin's wife Melody wrinkled her nose at my homemade preserves. "Do you actually eat this stuff? I mean, you don't know what chemicals might be in your soil." I bit my tongue and served dinner: roasted chicken from birds I'd raised myself, vegetables I'd grown without a single chemical, and bread I'd baked that morning. Then Charlotte, Bryce's wife, delivered the final insult. "Carol, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but have you considered maybe updating your lifestyle a bit? This whole farming thing worked when times were different, but now we have grocery stores and restaurants. You could sell this place, move to a nice retirement community, and actually enjoy your golden years instead of playing in the dirt all day." The table went quiet. My 3 children avoided eye contact, but none of them defended me. I stood up, cleared my throat, and spoke calmly. Thank you all for coming. Drive safely back to the city. They left that evening, and I haven't heard from any of them since. No phone calls, no text messages, nothing. That was their choice. They'd written off their mother as an embarrassing relic from a simpler time. They had no idea what was coming. Now, 2 days after that disastrous dinner, I was listening to the agricultural report on my morning radio show when the host mentioned something that made my coffee cup freeze halfway to my lips. Crop yields across the Midwest are down 30% this season due to extreme weather patterns. Food distributors are warning that consumer prices could rise dramatically by fall, especially for fresh produce. I set down my cup and walked to my computer. What I found in the next hour changed everything. Agricultural reports from across the country painted a devastating picture. Drought in California's Central Valley, flooding in Florida's farm counties, late freezes that destroyed fruit crops in Georgia and South Carolina, transportation issues at major shipping ports. But the real revelation came when I pulled up grocery store websites in my children's city. Organic lettuce, $6.99 per head.
Heirloom tomatoes, $12.99 per pound.
Free-range eggs, $8.49 per dozen. I laughed out loud in my empty kitchen. Then I walked outside to survey my embarrassing country operation. 2 acres of the most diverse, productive vegetable garden in the county. 40 laying hens producing fresh eggs daily. Fruit trees heavy with apples, pears, and peaches. A greenhouse extending my growing season year-round. Root cellars full of preserved foods. Freezers stocked with meat from local farms. Conservative estimate of my annual food production? Over $15,000 worth of organic produce and proteins that I either consumed myself or shared with neighbors. My country lifestyle wasn't primitive. It was prophetic. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through social media posts from my children's circle. Ashley's recent post showed elaborate dinner parties with catered meals. Kevin's wife constantly shared photos of expensive restaurant visits. Charlotte posted pictures of their weekly grocery hauls, bragging about shopping at the most exclusive organic markets. They were completely dependent on a food system that was about to get very expensive. Meanwhile, their embarrassing country mom was sitting on complete food security. The agricultural extension agent in me started calculating. Based on current market trends and weather predictions, food prices would likely double or triple over the next 6 months. My children's food budgets, currently running several $100s per week for their families, would become crushing financial burdens. But that wasn't the most interesting discovery. I remembered something from Kevin's last visit. He'd mentioned that Melody was trying to start a wellness blog, focused on organic, sustainable living. She'd been buying expensive courses on homesteading and sustainable cooking, paying hundreds of dollars to learn skills I'd been practicing for decades. Ashley had recently posted about taking a $500 mindful gardening workshop at some trendy wellness center. And Bryce? He'd actually bought a small hobby farm an hour outside the city, not to actually farm, but as a weekend retreat where Charlotte could take Instagram photos of their simple country life. According to his social media, they'd spent over $30,000 on landscaping alone, trying to create a picture-perfect version of rural living. They were all chasing authentic, sustainable lifestyles while simultaneously rejecting the real thing sitting right in front of them. The irony was almost too perfect. But what sealed my decision to take action was the final piece of information I discovered that morning. While researching food price trends, I stumbled across an article about urban farming consultants, people who help city dwellers start gardens and learn food preservation. The going rate for agricultural consultants in their city? $200 to $400 per hour. I'd been giving away decades of expertise for free to children who saw it as worthless. It was time for them to learn the true value of everything they dismissed. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I treated my knowledge like the valuable professional asset it actually was. First, I pulled out my old file cabinet and reviewed my credentials. Agricultural science degree from the State University. 25 years as a county extension agent. Certifications in organic farming, soil management, and food preservation. Published research on sustainable farming techniques. Letters of recommendation from farmers whose operations I'd helped save during various crises. On paper, I was more qualified than most of the expensive consultants my children were paying for inferior advice. Then I started documenting everything. I walked through my property with my phone, creating a detailed video inventory. 47 varieties of vegetables currently growing. Fruit trees producing over 200 pounds of fruit this season. Chickens laying an average of 36 eggs daily. Greenhouse systems extending growing seasons year-round. I calculated the replacement cost for everything I produced. Based on current organic prices in their city, my annual food production was worth over $22,000. But that was just the beginning. I pulled out old journals and started documenting my knowledge base. 30 years of weather pattern observations. Soil test results showing the gradual improvement of my land. Seed collection records dating back decades. Food preservation techniques that kept my pantry stocked year-round without any store-bought processed foods. Most importantly, I documented all my attempts to share this knowledge with my children. I found the emails I'd sent Ashley about natural pest control methods, ignored. The articles I'd forwarded to Kevin about soil health, never acknowledged. The invitation I'd extended to all of them to learn food preservation techniques, declined because they didn't have time for canning projects. Every piece of wisdom they'd dismissed was now worth its weight in gold. Next, I researched their current situations more thoroughly. Ashley's Instagram stories showed her struggling to keep a small herb garden alive on her apartment balcony. She'd spent over $300 on planters, special soil, and grow lights, only to watch everything die within 6 weeks. Her latest post complained about grocery bills exceeding $800 per month for her family of 4. Kevin had recently shared a Facebook post asking for recommendations for meal delivery services because cooking was too time-consuming. His family was spending over $1,200 monthly on food, including expensive organic options that weren't actually much better than what they could grow themselves. Bryce's situation was the most revealing. His hobby farm Instagram account showed a series of expensive failures. Professional landscaping that created pretty pictures but produced zero food. A chicken coop that cost $5,000 but never housed actual chickens because Charlotte was afraid of birds. A vegetable garden that failed completely because they'd planted everything at the wrong time and never learned proper soil management. They'd spent over $40,000 trying to buy the lifestyle I'd been living authentically for decades. The final piece of evidence came from an unexpected source. My neighbor Janet, who runs the local farmers market, called me that afternoon. "Carol, the strangest thing happened today." This young woman came to my booth asking all sorts of questions about food preservation and sustainable farming. Said she was starting a wellness blog and needed expert advice. Offered to pay me $200 for a consultation. "Oh really? When I mentioned that you're the real expert around here, with your extension agent background and all, she got real interested. Asked for your contact information." Janet paused. "Thing is, Carol, she looked familiar. Wasn't that your daughter Ashley? The one who works in marketing?" My blood ran cold, then hot with anger. Ashley was willing to pay a stranger $200 for the same knowledge she'd been dismissing as worthless country stuff, when it came from her own mother. That night I made my decision. If my children wanted to treat my expertise like a commodity to be purchased from strangers, then that's exactly what they'd get the chance to do. But the price was about to go way up. That weekend I did something I hadn't done since retirement. I got back into the consulting business. First, I updated my professional profile on the State University Extension website. Carol Henderson, agricultural specialist, 30 years experience in sustainable farming, food preservation, and organic growing techniques. Available for private consultation. Then I registered a simple business, Henderson Agricultural Consulting. My rates? $300 per hour for basic gardening consultation. $500 per hour for comprehensive food security planning. $1,000 per day for intensive homesteading workshops. These weren't inflated prices. They were exactly what other consultants in my children's city were charging for similar services. The difference was that I actually knew what I was talking about. Next, I reached out to my old network. Retired extension agents, successful farmers, agricultural researchers I'd worked with over the years. Within 3 days, I had a waiting list of urban clients desperate to learn food security skills as grocery prices continued climbing. But my real strategy was much more sophisticated than just starting a consulting business. I knew my children well enough to predict their exact responses to the unfolding food crisis. Ashley would panic first. She was a planner who needed to control every aspect of her environment. As grocery bills climbed and store shelves emptied, she'd frantically search for solutions. Her first instinct would be to throw money at the problem. Expensive consultants, premium delivery services, anything that promised quick fixes. Kevin would initially try to solve everything with technology. He'd research apps for meal planning, automated growing systems, anything that seemed smart and modern. Only after those solutions failed would he consider that maybe old-fashioned knowledge had value. Bryce would be the most stubborn. His ego was tied up in being successful and sophisticated. He'd exhaust expensive options before admitting that his mother might know something useful. But when Charlotte started pressuring him about their grocery bills, he'd crack. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly building relationships in their community for months. Remember Bradley, Ashley's condescending boyfriend who'd photographed my kitchen for his Authentic American Experience social media? Turns out he'd been bragging to his investment firm colleagues about discovering this incredible rural lifestyle consultant during a weekend trip. He'd been telling people about my expertise without realizing I was Ashley's mother. Through Janet's farmers market connections, I learned that several of my children's neighbors had been asking around for local food security advice. The exclusive subdivision where Kevin lived had even started a community garden project. Unsuccessfully, because none of them actually knew how to grow anything. Charlotte's book club had recently dedicated 3 meetings to discussing sustainable living and food independence. They'd spent hundreds of dollars on books written by people with half my experience. My children were surrounded by people desperately seeking the knowledge they'd dismissed as worthless. The midpoint hook was coming together perfectly. What they didn't know was that their embarrassing country mom was about to become the most sought-after agricultural consultant in their city. And they'd have to get in line with everyone else if they wanted access to her expertise. But first, I needed to let the crisis deepen just a bit more. I spent the next 2 weeks strategically building my reputation in their community. I started with Janet's farmers market connections, offering free advice to a few well-connected customers who'd spread word about my expertise. Then I reached out to the community garden projects in nearby suburbs, volunteering to give workshops on soil preparation and season extension techniques. Most importantly, I started teaching classes at the county extension office again, just 1 hour away from where all 3 of my children lived. Introduction to Food Security Gardening filled up in 2 days. Preserving Your Harvest, Canning, Freezing, and Root Storage had a waiting list of 40 people. Raising Backyard Chickens for Eggs and Meat sold out in 6 hours. Word spread quickly. Local newspapers wrote articles about the renowned agricultural expert, helping families adapt to rising food costs. Social media buzzed with testimonials from people whose gardens succeeded after taking my advice. My phone started ringing constantly. Desperate families, worried parents, community organizers. Everyone wanted Henderson Agricultural Consulting. I was booked solid for the next 3 months at $300 to $500 per hour. And my children still had no idea their embarrassing country mom was the expert everyone was talking about. The stage was perfectly set. Now I just had to wait for them to come crawling back. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late September, just as I'd predicted. Mom. Ashley's voice was tight with stress.
Hi.
It's been a while. I sipped my coffee and watched my chickens through the kitchen window. Hello, Ashley. How are you? Well, that's kind of why I'm calling. Things have been really tough lately with food prices and everything. Our grocery bills are insane, and I can barely keep herbs alive on my balcony, and Bradley keeps talking about this amazing agricultural consultant everyone's raving about. But her rates are like $400 an hour and I just thought. She trailed off, probably realizing how she sounded. You thought what, honey? Maybe you could give me some advice? About gardening and stuff? I know you're good at that country. I mean at growing things. I smiled. Oh, Ashley. I'd love to help. But I'm actually quite busy these days. I've started consulting again. helping families with food security and sustainable growing. My schedule is pretty full. Consulting? You mean, like professionally? $300 per hour for basic consultation, $500 for comprehensive planning. Same rates as everyone else in the business. I'm actually booked solid through December, but I could try to squeeze you in. Let me check my calendar. Silence on the other end. Mom, I'm your daughter. You can't seriously be talking about charging me for gardening advice. Well, sweetie, you made it very clear that my knowledge wasn't valuable enough to pay attention to when I offered it for free. Now that you need it, I suppose we can discuss my professional rates. I heard her sharp intake of breath. This is ridiculous. I'm not paying my own mother for advice about plants. That's completely your choice, Ashley. I respect your decision. Have a wonderful day. I hung up. 20 minutes later, Kevin called. Mom, Ashley says you're being weird about gardening advice? Look, Melody's wellness blog is really taking off, but she needs some authentic content about growing your own food. We thought maybe you could help us out. I'd be happy to help, Kevin. My consulting rate for content creation is $500 per hour, plus a percentage of any revenue generated from the content. When would you like to schedule a session? Wait, what? Mom, this is family stuff. We're not going to pay you. I understand. As I told Ashley, that's your choice to make. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Mom, what is going on with you? Since when do you charge family for help? Since my family decided my expertise was too country and worthless to pay attention to. Now that expertise is in high demand professionally, I'm simply applying consistent business practices. Kevin's voice got sharp. This is really petty, Mom. We're your kids. You're right, Kevin. You're my kids. And as your mother, I taught you that actions have consequences. You dismissed my knowledge when it was freely offered. Now you want to benefit from it when it's professionally valuable. That's not how respect works. I hung up on him too. By Thursday, my phone was buzzing with text messages from all 3 children. The tone progressed from confused to angry to desperate over the course of 2 days. Ashley. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so stubborn about this. Kevin, this is crazy. You're seriously going to charge your own family for gardening tips? Bryce. Charlotte says you're being manipulative. Just tell us how to grow vegetables without all this drama. But the most telling message came Friday evening. Ashley, fine. I'll pay your stupid consulting fee. When can we meet? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I let the weekend pass while I fielded calls from actual paying clients. Mrs. Patterson from Kevin's neighborhood paid $300 for a consultation on her failed vegetable garden. Mr. Williams from Ashley's apartment complex paid $500 for a comprehensive food security plan. 3 families from Bryce's subdivision pooled resources to hire me for a $1,000 weekend workshop on food preservation. All of them mentioned how impossible it was to find knowledgeable consultants in their price range. All of them lived within 10 minutes of my children. By Sunday evening, my children's text messages had shifted tone completely. Ashley. Mom, please. I really need help. Our grocery bills are killing us. Kevin. I'm sorry about what we said before. Can we please talk about this? Bryce. Charlotte is pregnant. We need to figure out how to feed our family affordably. Please don't shut us out. That last message almost broke my resolve. Almost. But then I remembered Charlotte's words. You could sell this place, move to a nice retirement community, and actually enjoy your golden years instead of playing in the dirt all day. I texted back. Congratulations on the pregnancy, Bryce. I'd be happy to discuss food security consulting. My next opening is in January. My rates are $500 for comprehensive family planning sessions. Let me know if you'd like me to hold the spot. Within an hour, all 3 had agreed to pay my consulting fees. But I wasn't done yet. The real consequences were just beginning. The next morning, something beautiful happened without any effort on my part. Janet called me, laughing so hard she could barely speak. Carol, you will not believe what just happened at the farmer's market. Tell me. Your daughter Ashley showed up with that fancy boyfriend of hers, asking around for affordable organic produce. She was complaining loudly about some agricultural consultant charging ridiculous rates, saying her own mother was being unreasonable about giving free advice. I stayed quiet. Well, Bradley, that's his name, right? He started bragging about how he'd discovered this incredible rural lifestyle expert during a country visit. Said she was the most knowledgeable person he'd ever met about sustainable farming. Oh my. Carol, he was describing you. Your kitchen, your garden, your chickens. He's been telling everyone in their social circle about the authentic farming expert he found in Millfield. Ashley's been dismissing her own mother, while her boyfriend's been praising you to everyone they know. The irony was perfect, but it got better. So Mrs. Chun, you know, the lady who runs that wellness blog? She overheard Ashley complaining and said, "Oh honey, if you need affordable food security advice, there's this amazing woman Carol Henderson who consults in our area. She's booked solid, but she's worth every penny." I started laughing. Ashley's face went white. Then Bradley started connecting the dots. Henderson was the name on your mailbox when he visited. Mrs. Chin pulled up your consulting profile on her phone and showed Ashley your photo. What did Ashley do? Grabbed Bradley's arm and practically ran away from the market. But not before half the vendor booths overheard the whole conversation. By Wednesday, the story had spread through the local community network like wildfire. The narrative was perfect. Successful agricultural consultant turns out to be the mother that entitled city kids had been dismissing as too country for their sophisticated tastes. My phone started ringing with calls from journalists. The regional agricultural magazine wanted to do a feature story. The local newspaper asked for an interview about generational wisdom in modern food security. But the real public validation came Thursday evening. Ashley's apartment building had organized a community meeting about rising food costs. They'd hired me as the consulting expert for $500 plus travel expenses before anyone realized the connection to Ashley. I arrived professionally dressed, carrying my agricultural extension credentials and a presentation folder filled with 30 years of expertise. Ashley was in the front row looking mortified. I delivered the most comprehensive professional presentation of my career. Seasonal gardening strategies for urban environments. Food preservation techniques that could cut grocery bills by 60%. Community-supported agriculture options. Soil testing and improvement methods. For 90 minutes, I demonstrated exactly the level of knowledge my children had dismissed as worthless country stuff. The audience was captivated. People took notes frantically, asked detailed questions, and lined up afterward to schedule individual consultations. Mrs. Rodriguez, Ashley's next-door neighbor, approached me as I was packing up. "Dr. Henderson, this presentation was incredible. My family has been struggling with food costs, and your advice could literally save us thousands of dollars annually." "I'm so glad it was helpful. I have to ask, I think I recognize you. Don't you have a daughter in this building? Ashley something." I glanced over at Ashley, who was still sitting in her chair looking stunned. "Yes, Ashley is my daughter." "Oh my goodness. She must be so proud to have such an accomplished mother. I bet she learned everything about gardening and sustainable living from you." The room went quiet. Everyone was looking at Ashley now. "Actually," I said gently, "Ashley and her brothers have been quite clear that my lifestyle and knowledge are too country for their taste. They've chosen to purchase similar advice from other consultants rather than accept it from their mother." You could hear a pin drop. Mrs. Rodriguez looked confused. "But, you're one of the most knowledgeable agricultural experts in the region. Why would anyone choose to pay strangers for inferior advice when they could learn from you?" I smiled sadly. "You'd have to ask Ashley that question." The social consequences were swift and decisive. Within days, Ashley's social circle was buzzing with gossip about the daughter who'd rejected her renowned expert mother's guidance while paying hundreds to strangers for the same knowledge. Bradley, mortified that he'd been unknowingly praising his girlfriend's mother while she dismissed her, broke up with Ashley that weekend. Kevin's tech company colleagues, many of whom had been struggling with their own food security concerns, started asking him pointed questions about why he wasn't learning from his agricultural expert mother. Bryce's investment firm actually reached out to me directly, asking if I'd be available for a corporate consultation on sustainable food supply chains. completely unaware that I was their colleague's mother. The community had spoken, and the verdict was clear. My children had been fools to dismiss such valuable expertise. But the professional consequences were just beginning. The breakthrough came in early November through a channel I hadn't expected. Bryce's investment firm, Henderson and Associates, no relation despite the name, had hired me for a $5,000 consulting contract on agricultural commodity futures. They wanted to understand how local food production could impact investment strategies in an era of rising food costs. I delivered a comprehensive report that impressed their entire team. What I didn't mention during the presentation was that their colleague Bryce was my son who dismissed this same expertise as worthless country knowledge. The firm's senior partner, Mr. Blackwood, called me personally to follow up. Dr. Henderson, your analysis was exceptional. Our clients are very interested in agricultural investment opportunities based on your insights. Would you be available for ongoing consultation work? I'd be delighted to discuss that, Mr. Blackwood. Excellent. By the way, one of our associates, Bryce Henderson, mentioned he might know you? Same last name, any relation? Perfect opening. Yes, Bryce is my son. Oh, wonderful. He must be so proud of your expertise. I imagine he learned quite a bit about agricultural markets from growing up with such knowledgeable parents. I paused thoughtfully. Actually, Mr. Blackwood, Bryce has been quite vocal about considering my agricultural knowledge too country for his sophisticated lifestyle. He and his wife recently told me I should sell my farm and move to a retirement community instead of playing in the dirt all day. Silence on the other end. I'm sorry, Dr. Henderson. I think I misunderstood. Are you saying that Bryce, our associate who works in agricultural commodities, dismissed expertise from his mother, who's one of the region's leading agricultural consultants? That's correct. The same Bryce who's been struggling to understand commodity market trends because he lacks practical agricultural knowledge? I believe so, yes. Mr. Blackwood's voice got very professional very quickly. Dr. Henderson, would you be available for a more extensive consulting arrangement with our firm? It seems we have some knowledge gaps to address. Within 2 weeks, I had a 6-month, $50,000 consulting contract with Bryce's own investment firm. The professional irony was devastating. Bryce's colleagues now looked to me as their primary agricultural expert, while Bryce himself had been revealed as someone who'd rejected valuable family expertise out of social embarrassment. But the financial consequences extended beyond just my consulting income. Kevin's wife Melody, desperate for content for her wellness blog, had started purchasing organic living courses from online influencers. $500 for a sustainable gardening masterclass. $800 for a food preservation certification program. $1,200 for a homesteading intensive workshop. All teaching information I'd offered them for free. When her blog started gaining followers interested in authentic sustainable living content, she faced a problem. She didn't actually know how to do any of the things she was writing about. So she hired me. At $500 per hour, I helped Melody create content for her blog based on my decades of experience. The blog became successful enough to generate $3,000 monthly in advertising revenue. I took a 30% consulting fee, as specified in our contract. Ashley's situation was even more poetic. Her marketing company had landed a major client in the organic food industry. They needed someone with authentic agricultural expertise to help develop marketing strategies that would resonate with increasingly food-conscious consumers. Ashley recommended me for the project, finally realizing that her mother's knowledge had commercial value. The contract was worth $25,000. But the most satisfying financial consequence came through my expanding consulting business. Word had spread through professional networks about my expertise. Agricultural companies, food distributors, even restaurant chains were hiring me for consultation work. My monthly income from agricultural consulting now exceeded what I'd made annually as a county extension agent. The country lifestyle my children had been embarrassed by was generating serious professional income. Meanwhile, their own financial situations were getting worse. Ashley's grocery bills had climbed to over $1,200 monthly as she tried to maintain an organic, local food lifestyle without any of the knowledge to support it affordably. Kevin's family was spending over $1,500 monthly on meal delivery services and expensive organic groceries, because neither he nor Melody knew how to plan meals around seasonal availability. Bryce and Charlotte's hobby farm had become a money pit. They'd spent over $60,000 trying to create a productive homestead, but every project failed because they lacked basic agricultural knowledge. The same knowledge they could have learned from me for free. By December, the financial math was stark. I was earning more from consulting than ever before, while my children were spending thousands monthly trying to achieve what I'd been living successfully for decades. But the most devastating consequence was still to come. The confrontation I'd been expecting finally came on Christmas Eve. All three of my children showed up at my door together. The first time they'd visited in over 6 months. "Mom, we need to talk," Ashley said, her voice strained. I invited them into my kitchen, the same room Bradley had photographed for his Authentic American Experience social media story. The same room my children had found embarrassingly country just months earlier. Now it looked different to them. They saw the professional-grade food preservation equipment, the agricultural journals stacked on my desk, the computer where I managed my thriving consulting business. "Mom," Kevin started, "we've been thinking about everything that's happened these past few months." "Oh." Bryce stepped forward. "We owe you an apology. We didn't understand. We didn't appreciate what you knew, what you'd built here." I poured myself tea from my grandmother's china set, the same set they'd found embarrassingly old-fashioned in the past. "Go on." Ashley's voice cracked. "We were idiots, Mom. Complete idiots. We let our stupid pride and social embarrassment blind us to how incredible you are. And how much we needed you," Kevin added. Charlotte, who had been quietly taking in the kitchen, finally spoke. "Mrs. Henderson, I owe you the biggest apology of all. What I said about selling this place and moving to a retirement community, it was ignorant and cruel." I looked at each of them carefully. "What brought this on?" Bryce answered. "Mom, do you know what my colleagues at the investment firm call you? They call you the agricultural genius. They say your market analysis is the most insightful they've ever seen. My own boss told me I'm lucky to have such an accomplished mother." "Meanwhile," Ashley added, "my neighbors won't stop talking about the amazing presentation you gave. Mrs. Rodriguez has cut her grocery bills in half using your advice. She keeps asking me why I don't know any of the things my own mother taught." Kevin ran his hands through his hair. "And Melody's blog only works because of your consulting. She's making money writing about skills she learned from you, while I've been too proud to admit I need the same help." They all looked miserable. "Mom," Ashley said quietly, "we want to come home." "What do you mean?" "We want to learn. Really learn. Not as clients or for some business project, but as your children. We want you to teach us what you tried to teach us before." Charlotte nodded. "With the baby coming, I want to know how to grow healthy food and create a sustainable home. Not the Instagram version that..."
If this story got you thinking, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit deep, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this one, share it with them. Thanks for watching.